Hello again, my friends. Welcome back to my show. I know you missed me yesterday because I hate people like that. Simon Miller. Ugh, I hate that guy. I hate the Jays. I mean, it's just, I hate everything about them. I hate their unity, their loyalty to each other, because we don't have it. You know, like you see it. If you once you start to see it, then you only see it, right? It's weird. Like even something as stupid as so. I watch the ups and downs. I'm woke. Oh Jesus! Don't say I'm woke. Say I'm awake. Saying I'm woke is how, like, they've tricked us. Where did that even come from? Think about that. You never say that. If somebody like were to, you know, is that guy sleeping? No, he's woke. You wouldn't say that, right? And that's they've infiltrated the truther thing. Like they're trying to make it not work every way they can. So even something stupid like that, like there's so many people that are going to hear you say I'm woke and be turned off by it. Because it's just such a nonsense thing to say. By the way, I met some Australians that know the Jays rule. Well, a long time ago, asked me if I was, and I'm just confused. More people know than many think. Of course. How could they not? How could they not? And I'm not trying to attack you, right? I appreciate your response, right? That's how people should respond. You shouldn't get all defensive. Like that's how an adult, that's how an awake person responds to things. Your mama worked on her knees, blah blah. Like, what the fuck? You must be a dumb Christian, Jay, something or other. Not just been into the eye. Wow, you want to have sex with my dead mother? You are gross. Like, wow. We've got a necrophiliac, folks. Must be a dumb Jay, honestly. I always think they're dumb Jays when they come through here. But as you were saying, how could you not see it? In today's society, with everything that's going on, you know, like the thing is, everybody's known who runs the show. They've always known about the Jay conspiracy. Your grandparents, you know, your parents, lots of people will say it in jokes. Well, you know who controls the money, don't you? But as soon as you try to be like, yeah, you know, they actually do control the money, like it's a real thing, they go, oh, no, dude, you're not supposed to say that. You're not supposed to say that. And it's we all know it. We've just been told we're not allowed to say it. We're not allowed, you know, we shouldn't see it. You know, and if you do say it, you're wrong. You're a bad guy if you say that you see it. But the problem is, I mean, there's genocide happening right now. I don't know about who cares about what. There's genocide happening. You know, Australia gives Israel $1.2 billion. What does Israel give Australia? You know, Canada gives Israel $2 billion a year. The U.S. gives them $3.8 billion a year. People are starting to really, they do this thing all the time. They just got done doing this thing in the United States where they were running with the government's going to shut down. The government couldn't shut down. The government's going to shut down. And then it never does, blah, blah, blah. But we all see it and go, well, we could just stop giving money to Israel. We could pay for things then, couldn't we? You know, the last time they pulled this government's going to shut down thing, they approved $14 billion, like an emergency $14 billion to go to Israel. And it was like, well, how are you pushing $14 billion through to Israel, foreign country, but you're trying to say that we can't pay our own employees? Bad day, everyone, including kings. I don't know what. Again, I don't know what you're talking about. That guy just cruised. He just went through the parking lots. Oh, that's unacceptable. Like I was watching this video today, a First Amendment guy, and you see this one a lot. If you watch the First Amendment things, you'll see videos of guys that hold signs and they get in trouble, or they go and they say, "God bless the homeless veterans. God bless the homeless veterans." How do you have to be to not think like God clearly hates the homeless veterans? If there is a God, that thing hates homeless veterans. Hates them. They're homeless veterans. What is there like a separate prayer jar for homeless veterans that they're just waiting, God's just waiting for enough prayers to fill up so he can be like, all right, homeless veterans, let's fix that. Like, it's just the incredible stupidity. Like, I want to support a guy like that. He's a First Amendment guy, blah, blah. And, you know, at the same time, that shit's all distraction. First Amendment shit is just, the Constitution, all that shit, it's all just distraction. If you believe in the Constitution, you're a fool. The message has nothing to do with God. There is no God. It's such it's such a dumb thing. I just can't put it into perspective how stupid the belief in God is. It's embarrassing. It's to see if he's going to get a cop to violate his First Amendment right. No, I know what First Amendment guys do. But again, pushing the narrative of God bless the homeless veterans is stupid. It's a redundant, like, again, it's distracting from the issue. You know. And there's a lot of people that will, oh, you know what, I'll pray about it. Oh, so you're not going to do anything. Like, they can justify not doing anything because they say they're going to pray about it. Doesn't matter anyway. There is, we all fall short of it. Oh, so you believe in God, huh? No, it very much matters. Because it's very stupid and it's how we're controlled. People will just... I use this example a lot, but a few years ago, the city I live in decided that they were going to redo all of the sidewalks. And so they sent somebody around with a spray can, and he went around and he marked and sprayed all of the, you know, he would walk down, and if he decided that your square wasn't good enough, then he marked it. And then they would come and replace it. And they did, you know, they had a big old to-do where they had a bunch of different workers come and they just replaced all the signs, you know. And what they did was for every square they marked, they would charge you $250. You didn't have a choice. If they decided that you had 4 squares that were bad, you owed the city $1,000. The city you live in, you pay taxes to. You know, the sidewalk is not your property. You are to maintain it, but it's not your property. It's the public. That's why people can walk it, because it's public. It's not yours. You pay taxes for that exact reason, for upkeep on your property.
They throw it onto your taxes, so you have to pay it. It's not a separate bill.
Well, if you can't pay it. Because, you know, they were taking checks and whatnot. If you could pay it, they would take it. And so our neighbor, she was Charlie Christian, you know. She was a woman who was raped as a child. She was, you know, divorced, had every single health ailment you could imagine, lived in filth. Like, her house was just wretched. It stank so fucking bad.
It wasn't filthy, but it stunk like dogs and cats.
Yeah, that's filth.
But when you walked in, her house was clean.
It
was always clean. It just stunk.
Whatever. That's dirty. So, and she was fixed income, all this shit. The city comes by, they decide that not only is 3 of her squares no good, her driveway isn't any good, and she needs to redo the whole driveway. It's like a $2,500 bill or some shit.
What's fucked up about that, though, there's even more fucked up shit about that. So, back in the day, they only required 2 strips of cement for your tires, and in between those strips, you could have a grass strip. Well, maybe 20 years ago, they changed the ordinance in the city, and any new construction or new cement work, that had to be filled in. So she had been grandfathered in because no work had been done on her property, and she had one of those old driveways. So when they fixed the sidewalk, because they did one at the base of her driveway, they then considered that new cement work and then required her to do it. So she, like, there wasn't even anything wrong with her driveway.
So this woman is devoutly religious, and we would talk about things all the time, like you got raped, and when you were getting raped, did you ask God for help? How'd that work out? But her solution to that to the concrete problem, to everything, was to go in her house and pray about it. She would go super pray. She would spend hours a day praying about things. Praying that we would find Jesus, me specifically. She would pray about it. And imagine if that woman didn't have that crutch. if there wasn't gosh, I hope somebody does something about this thing. And instead, she had to, she, along with all the other Christians in the community, got together as a community. And why do you have my socks on?
No. I have the boys' socks on.
Okay. As a community, we then went to City Hall. We went to whatever we had to. We protested. We did whatever we had to do as a unified group, saying, we're not fucking paying for this. That's what we've already paid for this. That's what our taxes are for. All those years, the months, all the taxes you collect that we never get anything out of anyway. Now this is time for you guys to pay. And $250 per slab is fucking ridiculous. And you weren't allowed to get it done yourself. If you were to say, oh no, I know a guy, I can get it done much cheaper. They were like, nope.
My brother has a cement company. He'll do it for free.
Nope. And so imagine if we as a community would have gotten together and said, fuck that, we're not paying. They wouldn't have, they would have just done it. They would have had to pay it.
No, because they threw it on everybody's taxes.
No, because the leadership, if they knew they were going to get voted out the next time, then they would have done it. We'll vote every single one of you out. Every single board member, every single government member, will get, all of you won't have a job come next voting cycle. Of course they'd fucking do it.
The problem with that, though, is you take somebody like Ginger, you take God and that option to pray, that little golden ticket to pray away from them, and they're going to turn to substances.
No, they won't. No, they won't. See, this is we already do. This is the self-policing mechanism that they've programmed into all of us. Well, if you change the society in any way, if you do anything to break the cycles and the strings that are on everything, well then we'll just descend into chaos and madness. We won't be able. No. Yes, you are, not in those exact words, but that's what people do. People will be killing everybody if they know there's no God, and it's not true. Especially since the next generations that don't grow up with the programming to begin with, they'll be fine. You know, they'll be just fine. I pray. How's that work for you? Not more than I used to. How's that prayer work for you? Let me guess. You pray for only selfish bullshit. And you'll say, no, 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 no. How often do you pray for the Palestinians? How often do you pray that the J control scheme completely falls apart? How often do you pray to the J God that the J control scheme falls apart and they stop raping children and blah, 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 blah? Never, never. Exactly. Because you pray for selfish shit. That's what they do. Everybody's fucking selfish. I even think what my wife's belief structure is selfish. And I think it's all because that's what they do. That's why all the belief structures are inherently the same. There's a very similar underlying current, whether it's Christianity, Islam, Wiccan, pagan. It's all very similar. It's like how every country in the world are supposedly these different countries, but they all have flags that look similar. Or flags in general. Why do they even have a flag? Why do they have a national anthem? That always, you're like, wait, what? Which one in it? I don't even know. I probably just did a fucking anthem from somewhere. It's all, we live in a much more of a one world government, one world control scheme than people realize. It's disgusting, man. It's they've convinced us all that we're not selfish. I'm just on my own journey trying to make things better, blah blah. You cannot be your best self while the rest of the world is suffering. You just don't understand that. Like you just, I say it all the time. I want myself, my wife, and my children to live the happiest, healthiest, safest life possible. I have what I believe is a truly, truly selfish mentality. I want myself and my wife and kids to be as happy, healthy, and safe as we possibly can. And the only way that can even remotely be true is if everyone else is as happy, healthy, and safe as they can be. And we're all working to make everyone else's life just as good as our own. Does it make your television watching experience any better knowing you have a more expensive TV than your neighbor does? Not that the TV is better. I'm saying the knowledge that it costs more than somebody else's TV. Does that make your TV watching experience better? What about if you find someone that has yuck. Must be a piece of tobacco in there. What if you find somebody that has the same TV but they paid $500 less, $1,000 less? Does that ruin your TV watching experience now? No, it's still the same fucking TV. It still looks the same. Still sounds the same. It's all about your perspective. The fact we don't live in a place where, like, your TV goes bad, you take it to the TV place, and they recycle it for all the parts and everything they can use, and then you get a new TV. You get the best new model. And sure, new models are always going to come out. But when it's not a thing, you don't need to have the newest model every time. That's just, it's just human nature. Do atheists' life weight as the same as a cricket? I mean, we've got stupidity, folks. Anything to distract from the reality, right? Reality.
I don't know. I think you have more faith in
I do.
the average human than you should. They 90 probably 95 96% of all rehabs are all faith based. So you take that thing that they've given people to cling to away, what are they going to cling to?
I'm so glad you said that. And
How are
what
they going to get sober?
what do you think the successful percentage numbers of those rehabs are? What's the recidiv what's the word?
Residual?
No, recid when they come back in.
Rescind?
The rescind. No. What's the percentage of people who stay clean based on religion?
I bet you it's higher than those that don't.
It's not. It's not. And it there's not a lot of other options. But it doesn't work. If it worked, if rehab is like, it's like 90%, reoffend. It's fucking stupid. It's not even, it's just this weird thing again that like, I mean,
Or the inmates that stop committing crimes.
they don't. Again, prison has like an 85% rescission rate. People are reoffending left and right. The people that find Jesus are the lifers. And they find God when they're in there. It's when they get out and they go, oh yeah, this shit isn't real, that they end up committing crimes again. Recidivism, that's what it is. Thank you. Thank you. Like it's if anything else worked like that, we would say, oh, you have a 10% success rate? You need to redo your thing, because obviously that shit's not working. But, this is it's like, okay, get it out of my face. They can go over there. Okay, well then I don't have to think about it. I see this all the time watching videos, right? I see like, I watch a lot of interrogation type videos and shit like that. And you see it 100% of the time. I saw this one. Susie was killed by her on again, off again. I don't know if they were married. Maybe they were married. I'm not sure. She had 4 kids. I don't know if he was the father of all 4 kids. But this is a fat, redhead white woman who had a bunch of happy babies. Because of abuse and drug use, she kicked the man out. She lived in a trailer, and he lived in a different trailer, or maybe it was a hotel a couple of miles away. And she was killed because she had gone over there and there was some scuffle between them, blah, blah, blah. And so then it's like, after the fact, everybody talks about what a great woman she was and how hardworking she was and all this. And it's like, she was at the drug hotel doing drugs with the guy when she got killed while her kids were at home. What are we talking about? You see it all the time. Whenever it's a cute little white girl that's killed by a black guy, they'll be like, she was so promising. She had such a promising future, and Then why was she in the hood with hood nigga? What's going on there? Obviously, she wasn't the good girl everybody's trying to portray her as, and we do that with everything. We throw these rose-colored glasses, and people say this all, don't speak ill of the dead. Don't speak ill of the dead. I mean, unless it's like Hitler, right? Then I can speak dead of him and you'll be okay with it. Like, it's we're just like really stupid, and it's all by design. And the thing that I with when my wife says, you can't do this, she's right. In the scenario we live in, with everything else staying the exact same, and we just take religion out of it, yeah, that's going to be a little chaotic. The thing that we don't really understand is the revolution is all encompassing. We have to, like I keep saying, 2025 is the year of honesty. Because we just have to be honest about things. Every time somebody claims to be, like, do you honestly believe in God? Let's be honest about it. Do you honestly believe in, what do you honestly believe in? Because a lot of, like, the whole thing with God is that there's a dome, a firmament over the earth, separating the waters from heaven from the waters down below. And so, as soon as, the vast majority of you who believe in space start, like, okay, so then where's God? Where's the heaven and the throne and all that shit where God lives if there's not a dome and a separate area above the earth? Where's the devil? Like, the main reason I stayed away from the flat earth argument for such a long time, and the earth shape argument for such a long time, is because I thought it really gave Christians a leg up, but they don't seem to take it. It's really strange. It's why you must remain open-minded and filter through the BS. Just talk. It is. That's why most aren't strong enough to break it. You have to reconstruct your entire reality quickly, or else you'll go insane. No, I mean, we are adaptable. Humans are extremely adaptable. So, like you could be you, who is, just some guy doing blah, blah, blah. Find yourself, in a plane crash, you happen to survive with no injuries or small injuries, out in an island somewhere, and you'll survive. You'll figure out how to survive. A lot of you. Some of you, a lot of you will die, but that's, the good thing is we're not here alone on an island. We're all here together. Flow like water, drift like a cloud. Flow like water is Bruce Lee. Be like water. Crash and flow. I just don't. Wow. What's funny is, like, I know so many of those quotes and stuff like that. But I don't know, I guess like this, at the end of the day, like, I think I have more conviction than most. Like, when I say that it's all Hollywoodism bullshit, I mean that. And I mean it that I don't believe the narrative. And so, the quotes that we know of, like, it's silly to even think about it. Somebody said something somewhere at some point, and somehow everybody, I like the way he said that. Whatever. 2 in the hand is worth 3 in the bush, or whatever the stupid thing is. Somebody heard that and was like, oh yeah, I'm going to start saying that. And it just went all over the world. I think it's funny, how do we all know how to tie our shoes? How did that become a thing? Laces, and people were like, oh, look at that. Tying shoes is hard work. Quotes are just metaphors for certain aspects of life. It's not that deep. Yeah, but at the same time, most of the time, like, most of the shit that people think is super deep is vague, or it could be interpreted multiple different ways. But again, these are just I don't care. I don't care about, like, the only reason I care about history anymore is the aspect of us being lied to. And then who is doing the lying? But as far as the reality of it or the effect it may have on things, I've gotten to a really weird point, man. It's a weird place. I don't deny it. I don't deny it. I'm kind of crazy. You don't want to fuck with me. But even that, Tupac. Tupac is a completely manufactured false narrative. I saw this video today about this guy, King, blah, I don't remember what it was called, but he was talking about how, what, are we crazy? Like, so many of these rappers are clearly rapping about gay shit, and nobody talks about it. Biggie Smalls had a bunch of some of the most out of pocket lyrics, which is, the problem is, like, I have zero issue with gay. The only thing I really hate is the sneaky, the narrative, the actors, the idea that a bunch of gay guys were given the position of being, what real men are, especially in the black community. So then you see black people walking around with earrings and like as gay as it gets, but they're not gay. And it's just such a weird, it's like how we're just being manipulated. When I look at 2000s black guys, it's so embarrassing. Go look at old videos of Snoop Dogg. And I can personally attest to it because when I went to prom, I had a top hat and tails. Because, we wanted to be pimps because pimps are cool. Pimps are the worst fucking people in the world. Pimps are horrible fucking people. That shouldn't be a job that's revered. And sorry, but most of those pimps seem really gay to me. How you can hate women as much as you would have to hate women to be a pimp? You'd probably be gay. And then look at what they wear. Look at their goofy ass outfits. It's all J clown stuff. It's all that step and fetch it. It's all, like go watch Malcolm 10, right? And in the beginning, he's walking around and he's got his orange zoot suit on, and he's walking like this. Like he had to, he learned, he walked upright and whatnot, but then he had to get himself to walk like this with his hand all swaying, all crunched over and shit. Looking like an absolute fucking fool. That no J's in charge go, ooh, man, he looks sharp. I'm intimidated by him. They go, look at, he's got an orange fucking suit on. Oh my God, what a dumbass. Like it's the same stupid shit. And of course, it's funny how my page is full of racists. I got all kinds of racists in the comments, right? But because they're just Israeli bot trolls, instead of agreeing with me on the stuff like black people being made to be embarrassing and looking like clowns and shit, they still talk shit. Because the programming says they have to disagree and talk shit about whatever I say. It's just fucking funny. It's funny. They have completely manipulated us into being just the stupidest fucking clown character non-threat that we can be. How else can you get people to identify themselves? Well, have them name each other. I saw somebody named La Christie today. La Christie.
What is that?
And make sure when she speaks like she's fucking stupid. She says words wrong. She, you know, she's obviously as ignorant as you can be. Why? So that if for some crazy reason her application slips through the first checks, as soon as I talk to her, I don't even have to see her. I could just talk to her on the phone. Oh no. Yeah, we'll call you. Okay. Like it's crazy how well it's worked. But at the same time, I mean, it's been all encompassing for such a long fucking time. The way that they've controlled Hollywood, and therefore the perception on everything, our perspective about everything, we just don't realize it. You know? We think that our, you know, people walking around like, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. I see this, it's so weird. Gordon Flowers, right? Gordon Flowers, to me, does really great work. You know, I can't help but notice that the Big Dumb J happens to be one of the biggest channels that is allowed to exist on YouTube. Now, he talks shit about YouTube. But, you know, I see this guy who loves making fun of poor white trash, loves making fun of black people. He's clearly racist, but he's J racist. And if you look at his channel, you're not going to see a bunch of J's being caught by his network, which doesn't make any sense. Because if you look at the original TCAP videos, the J's were disproportionately way more caught than anyone else was. The fact that he's not catching J after J after J shows you that they're making decisions. And when you know who the J's are, you know that if Alex Rosen has the opportunity to catch, you know, Robert Green, or, you know, Chaim Finkelberg, he's going to definitely go after the other guy. He's not going to, and you know it because I was watching this video, one of his catches, where he has this other character that he calls that pretends to be a mental health worker. And he puts him on speakerphone and he talks to the guy. And at one point, the guy's asking him questions. Well, are you this? And are you that? And blah, blah, blah. And he says, well, are you Jewish? And before that guy can even answer, Alex goes, no, we're not, no. He never said anything about anything else. It's crazy because I always thought that something was weird about him. Yeah, he's a dumb J. And he you know, he does great work on one hand, but he's allowed to. You know, where so many people are not allowed to, he's allowed to. And I just, you know, they are in every element, every aspect of our lives. And when you see it, and it's shocking. You know, he is, and
he's not. Bull isn't.
Bull is. Oh yeah, yes. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. No, you're wrong. He seemed oddly excited to see CP on Predators. What he does is fucking great. The way that he acts like he is their buddy and friend gets them to open up more than anybody else would. And admit to a lot more. That's the key. I saw him yesterday. He set up something with this roofer, and he was like, he pretended to be looking for a job. So he offered to buy the crew lunch. It was only 3 guys. And you have to imagine, like, he's making some significant money. When the guy got a sandwich and a bowl, he was like, wait, did you get, because my voucher's only good for one. He's setting this whole thing up so he can make money from it and leave it up to the J to be like, hey, you got too much food when I said I'd buy you lunch. Oh no, I love his content, bro. I'm here. Right. He doesn't, no, he's real good about, like, he does a lot of really good shit. And and it's not CP, it's child exploitation materials. I hate when it's called CP. Porn is a legal, contract between 2 people who agree that they're going to do adults, consenting adults agreeing to either make money or do it for fun, but they're consenting adults. No, he's not. I don't know where I saw it, but I saw him somewhere with a fucking yarmulke on. Maybe I'm wrong. It's general term most recognized when I say, yeah, but it needs to change. Like, it's only a term because this is a perfect example of it. It's only that term because we have agreed to it being that term. And, like, it softens it. Child exploitation materials is a hell of a lot worse than CP. And we do this thing where we act like, oh, well, saying an extra word would be difficult or tedious in some way. You have a J friend. You know a J. At the end of the day, a guy like Alex is going to side with his side. And that's one of those big issues with it all. They've tricked us into thinking that we're all these unique tribes and stick to your own kind and all that other shit. I've never heard him say, of course he doesn't. He says CP all the time. It makes sense why he used the term, though. If you, I'd love to give him a pass, right? But how can you be, when you belong to the cult that is murdering people, committing genocide right now, that is continuously caught in Hollywood. Like, the thing about Alex too is he's a huge Trump supporter, right? Guess what? So is most of the people he catches. Isn't that fucking weird how most of the people you catch happen to be CP guys or child guys, It's all, Alex, at the end of the day, he supports Trump. Alex, at the end of the day, supports Israel. I don't care what fucking Alex supports Jayism. This cult is abhorrent. If you really are Alex, the I don't like children being abused guy, then how come you're not actively, busting moils who go around performing mutilation and molestation on children every day? These guys are busy. There was one guy, he was being interviewed about the whole herpes being passed to a bunch of kids from one of the moils. And he said, there's nothing wrong with this. I've done it thousands of times and nothing bad has happened. And that was, and I was stunned. Like, you've had thousands of bloody baby penises in your mouth. What? I've seen maybe 3 liberal catches. Anybody who like, if you have been tricked into that phrase liberal, what does a liberal mean? What is a liberal trying to achieve? Like, what is the base of liberal? It's somebody who wants what? Liberties. They've tricked us into saying somebody who wants liberties is bad, but you know, the average person that says, fucking liberals, they're a douchebag. Like, at the end of the day, you know what I think is funny? I saw this one video where this guy I know, CB Hedges, who is fucking racist bigot as hell. He doesn't think he is, but he's a racist bigot. You see white people always complaining about, you know, all these people, all these gays, they want equal rights, and they think you're a bad guy because you blah blah blah, and it's like they're trying to push their opinions on you, and that's bullshit. Well, but it's okay for you to do it, right? It's okay that because you don't like things, because you think people shouldn't have rights, because you think lots of bad shit should happen. That is okay. But anybody that doesn't agree with your crazy nonsense, like that's the thing. It comes down to honesty, right? If we were to just lay cards on the table and say, all right, you believe in God. Let's talk about why you believe in God. And if yours is the right perspective, I will admit that I was wrong and change my mind. Yet they never want that. I've never had a Christian be like, okay, cool, let's do it. You don't believe in this stuff, and you're okay. Well, I believe I can convince you otherwise. I believe in the power of God, and God is good, and it's how we make society better. Like, when people say, oh well, you know, you're if you honestly think you have the truth to make the world a better place, me not just accepting it off the bat, you should be more than okay with that.
But here's Freddie Rodriguez. He's Spanish. I thought he was Jewish too. That's crazy.
Forgot what the fuck I was saying, because she does that to me all the time. And I give a shit about what she says, so I stop what I'm doing to listen. I've seen him on this show in a fucking yarmulke. And, you know, the Israel episodes and all that shit. And, you know, a lot of times, the main isn't the J. Everybody around them is the J.
Your Honor, we'd like to thank and excuse us, sir. And what about you, sir? Did you spend the holidays with your family?
This show is so bad. These shows are all so bad. I mean, it's so crazy to watch them brag about how they just fuck people up, especially the cop shows. Christians are just goofy. I mean, the fact is, damn near every single one of you sees enough. Like, you're not a good Christian. If the rapture came, you'd be like, look, Jesus is coming, I could see him, and then you disappear behind the horizon or whatever, and you'd be like, any minute now. Oh, okay, some people are starting to go up. What the fuck? Most of you're not good Christians. I just came to my mind, but I vaguely remember a pred catch Alex did where he made a joke about baby penises. Yeah, well, I mean, I think he does what he has to do in those scenarios. I definitely, I don't think he partakes in any of it, but again, unless you are willing to talk about the source, sure, it's going to be more difficult for him to go after higher ups and all. But I mean, just the idea of you're a Trump supporter, right? Trump was best buddies with Epstein. And as far as COVID goes, when you find out that there was the trial, or there was the, what would you call it? The accusation, that the court documents, that the charges, how many of you know that
Alleged charges, allegations.
How many of you know that Trump was there? I mean, I don't know.
He was convicted.
No, not that, but the for there to be defendants means you had to be charged. For you to be the defendant in something, you had to have been charged.
And then charged with it.
Right, but you can be accused all you want. It's not going to go to court. The only way it's going to go to court and you're going to be a proper defendant is if you were charged. Right.
Whether it's the state or an individual.
Right, whatever, but there are official charges that are filed. And you can find it. Trump and Epstein were both charged with. It was dismissed. But in 2020, Trump was under the gun for fucking child rape with Epstein, 4 separate occasions, with just one girl, and they were creditable accusations. It's fucking insane. Mentally taxing. Most citizens deal with more stress than a rich Jay. They have all the judges, absolutely. But that's what they said they wanted. Rockefeller said that's what they wanted, was the judges. Or they didn't want, was the judges, the poets, the laureates, all that shit. They have all that. They just want the workers. But why isn't anybody, when you understand that COVID was the cover-up, if there was no COVID, that whole thing would have been front page fucking news every single day. Whether or not anything came of it, whatever, if it would have been public knowledge, then it definitely, there would have been more that came from it. But when do you guys realize it's all a manipulation? I've always known COVID was associated with Epstein. The COVID-Epstein connection is to me undeniable. But when you add the whole Trump-Epstein charges, charges. Despite representing about 2% of the overall population, Jays account for approximately 10 to 15% of practicing attorneys. This overrepresentation can be attributed to cultural values prioritizing education and intellectual pursuits.
Don't you love that?
Because their culture prioritizes education and intellectual pursuits over the rest of us. That's why they have a 2%. They make up. That's what, 100 is how many percent higher is that? 500% higher than their population, representation?
I mean, well, no, because you gotta do the math.
500 times, whatever. Yeah. It's like when they say, white people are arrested more than black people. Well, yeah, 69% of the population being arrested, 61% of the time compared to 39 or 30, 33, 33% or 30, whatever it is, because, there's the small fraction of others, but 30 something percent of the black people. You say, well, yeah, look, it's almost double the percentage. Yeah, but white people make up 69% of the population, and black people make up 13%. So
I don't believe that.
300 times. However, a 2017 study by scholars Safir Shahani
Blah, blah, blah.
and Lawrence J. Liu found that among federal appellate judges, 45.1% were Protestant, 28.2% were Catholic, 19% were J, and 5.1% were Mormon.
I don't believe those numbers.
I don't either. Well, then, no, I do. Because,
Those are appellate judges.
yeah, your little shitty courts all over the place. Of course, if they want that position, obviously they get it. But the little podunk towns and shit.
So then there's the general statement.
While specific data on the percentage of J lawyers in the overall legal profession is scarce, for some reason, it's widely understood that they are overrepresented compared to their representation in the general population. I wonder how many other people.
Statement. Think about that.
Right. I wonder how many other people, like black people again, they make up 13% of the population, but they're 39% of the people getting arrested or whatever it is. Like, that overrepresentation is a negative thing.
Well, let's look up what percentage are black.
Approximately 5% of attorneys in the U.S. are black, a figure that has remained relatively stagnant over the past decade, significantly lower than the 13.4% of the U.S. population that identifies as black. Gee, they could have said the 15, the 20, isn't it strange how I just happen to know my shit?
Wait.
13%.
A lesser percentage.
Which is...
No, 5% of the attorneys.
Yeah, 13% of the population.
That's a lesser percent than Mormons.
Right. Right.
That's fucking sick.
Of course. President Trump went to the island was to dismantle it. Yeah, you know that. He made so many trips because he was trying to do it brick by brick. Yeah, that makes so much more sense. Trump, that guy with that construction body. He was out there dismantling things brick by brick. Is that the stupid shit Trump supporters say? The only reason he went to the island was to dismantle it?
Yeah. You know what's funny? When I did the J thing, all of these suggested links had judges in there. Not one of them says judges for the black one. Not one of them.
If you type into your phone, let me see if this will happen. Can I see your phone for a second?
Let me type in judges real quick.
I had open heart surgery. My tip is 5 healthy ways to cope with stress, because open heart surgery is pretty stressful.
11.8%. That's
Of federal judges are black,
federal, not Apple.
which is lower than the 13.7%. Now it's 13.7% of the population. The previous one was 13.4. I just want to see something in your text. It doesn't matter who. Jews are the... Oops.
It's always better when we catch these things before they burst. The surgery and the recovery are always a little more involved after they fracture.
Look what always pops up as your first suggestion. Look, no, wait.
Not quite.
Look what it says. Look what the phone always... How do you think I knew it would do this? J's are the... What's your first option? Best, only, and then most. How do you think your phone got programmed to say that? Don't you think that's interesting? Whoever says racial profiling doesn't exist does not only reject math as you stated, but rejects any truth or any... No, you know, the people that say racial profiling doesn't exist are fucking dumb white people. I mean, that's it. You don't hear black people saying that. Not a single black person says it. And then every black person that talks about their experience, they must have been lying. What's interesting is that white people did that for decades, forever. Forever it was that the black people are lying. So then video cameras became a thing. And now those videotapes, well, those aren't quite good enough yet. So then cell phones become a thing. And oh, well, those cell phone videos just aren't quite good enough yet. And street cams. And now we have 4K cell phone videos. Still not good enough. What black people are still lying. I've said it time and time again. Show me the videos of the unarmed white guy getting shot by crazy police. Love to see it. I mean, I'd hate to see it, but there should be, if white guys are arrested at a 60-some percent, 50-some percent compared to the 39% black people are, then there should be more videos of unarmed white people being arrested or shot, right? I mean, it's the thing about the Jays that's so telling is the fact that you can't talk about them. I mean, I've literally been doing this for almost 2 decades. I've been talking about all kinds of things, and in January 1st or 2nd, whatever it was, where I jokingly said, because I think New Year's resolutions are stupid, but I was saying that I'm no longer going to be focusing on the chemtrails that don't seem to be being... I guess there's no planes flying today, huh, Wally? No planes out there. None in the flight path. Must be drier today. Must be drier moisture than today. Anyway, I said that I was no longer going to focus on that. I was no longer going to focus on all these... I was no longer going to be spread thin. Focusing on this, all these different things, focusing in all these different directions. You're not focused on anything. And I said that I'm going to start focusing. At the time I said on cutting off Israel from that $3.8 billion a year, which turns into about 15 billion shekels per year. And using that money that we now say $3.8 billion a year to create proper pedo hunters, a pedo hunter program in the government. The government doesn't have the money for that, so let's fix it. And it was immediate. There was an immediate change in what my page was allowed to be. I was allowed to have really decent numbers on Facebook prior to making that change. And the thing is, after all this time, I haven't had anybody come in and be like, hey man, I'm a J, I was raised J, I've never had somebody come in and be like, I fucking hate that cult, I was raised by that cult and now I'm out. But I've never had somebody come in and be like, hey man, I think you might be wrong about some things, let's talk about it. I think you're wrong about this, I think you're wrong about that. In all this time, the only thing I've heard is that I shouldn't be saying these things. And it's like with me, I encourage you. I encourage you to talk about me in every way you fucking can. If you have any sort of questions, then don't hesitate to ask, as long as you're not a dumbass troll, whatever.
I sent a letter to the judge saying that I am personally responsible for his work.
I'm sure the council will check in with you as soon as he can, but until he is on a recess.
But that's when you have the truth, you encourage people to ask you questions about it because you want them to have the truth. It's the truth. Did you know the truth? Did you know this? We all do that. It's just natural. Like you find something out and you'll call people. You find something cool out and you'll be like, I gotta fucking tell somebody. This is fucking great. This is the truth. I got to tell you some truth. And if it's life-changing truth, you don't go, oh, shit, I'm going to hide that. And if anybody asks me, I'm going to attack them and say, don't you ask questions about what are you doing? You can't talk about truth. Lots of people say that they hold arguments like Indian Americans and Asian minorities that have good wealth and representations in various industries compared to the population. What does that mean? That just means they're not targeted as much. But Asians absolutely feel racism, especially with Trump in office. It's similar to the argument made about the J lawyer. Sure it is. The Jays are reasonable for how focused the man in front of us is today. That's an understandable comparison, but again, they still faily the math part. Is that fillet? I don't know. How they disproportionately are arrested, and how they fail the math part, and how they disproportionately. I don't understand what that means. They understand that's an understandable, but again, they still fail the math. Who fails the math part? And when you can't talk about society without talking about it honestly. Anybody who acts like black people should have just been able to overcome is an ignorant racist. There's a meme that I love where it shows a white guy and a black guy about to be in a race, 100-yard dash or whatever, and the black guy's lane is full of like spikes and fire and all this other shit, while the white guy's is a straight shot. And the caption is like, black people are always complaining about, how, that they don't have a fair shot or something like that. Inequality. But it's like, if you look at the world, the United States that we've been given, your grandparents, like there's color video of black people as groups demanding rights and being attacked. There's those famous black and white videos of like the kids, the kids being attacked. If you don't, and we all think the racism is in the South. In 83, I think it was, the Boston school system was still segregated, and they finally changed it. And they had to do busing routes. They had to change the bus routes, and they were going to bring black kids into the schools now. Where the white kids got, where they redrew the lines, and some of the white kids had to go to these black schools and whatnot. The white kids were met by committees, by groups trying to help them. They never faced any danger. There was nothing wrong. White people lined up for fucking down the entire bus routes, throwing rocks at buses because black kids were in them. This is in the 80s in Boston.
Shit, in the 90s in Detroit was the white cops beating the black dude. What was his name?
Malice Green.
Yeah.
Was just saying it doesn't justify how racial profiling doesn't is because it's obviously done. Yeah. But it's just so much deeper than people realize. I want to find let's see. Boston busing. Boston busing riots. All right. The desegregation of the Boston public school system, 1974 to 1988. It took 14 years
to desegregate all the schools.
To desegregate all the schools in Boston. Long after segregation and all that was outlawed.
Boston, good old Irish Catholic.
Racist as fuck.
Racist as fuck.
Where it's Irish Catholic, but the Jays still pull all the strings.
But the Irish were the ones that were shunned and
of course
against. And
so they say.
Racist.
so they say, was a period in which the Boston public schools were under control to desegregate through a system of busing students. Because it wasn't happening naturally, so the government had to step in because the white people were resisting it so much. You guys really... There's a documentary on PBS called Keys to the Kingdom. And it's a multi-part series. And it's about this. So if you need that visual representation, you can probably find it. Maybe. I don't know.
I wouldn't want to see those images. They're bad enough in my head as it is.
No, it's really... You have to see those. Those are the things people have to see. Because there are so many people... Even you do it. You... There are times when things are said or done and you're like, nah, I don't know about that. When you understand just how racist these people were, and like these are people's grandmothers. You're watching me today. This is 74 to 88. This is 50 years ago.
I was born in 74.
Right. This is my kid's mother was born at this time. But the people doing this would have been grandmothers. Your grandmothers. You know, there's all sorts of this proof out there. Those people that were throwing rocks at the school buses, they didn't just change their fucking minds. They didn't just change their minds, and they raised another generation to do the same, to think the same way. My kids are super, super tolerant and open-minded. Why? Because we are their parents.
Well,
they wouldn't just be that way.
Their generation, for the most part, is.
Right, but they wouldn't just be that way. If they had racist parents, they would be more likely to be racist. It's not guaranteed, but it's more likely. The call for desegregation and the first years of its implementation led to a series of racial protests and riots that brought national attention, particularly from 74 to 76. Why again? Is it because the black people were rioting? And a lot of these people were Jays. Don't get it wrong. Like you the deep South. You want to pretend like the South is racist. It's not just the South. I guarantee once it gets a little warmer, I could drive around my neighborhood and find at least one person flying a Confederate flag. At least. The fuck? Damn it. I'm struggling here, guys. The things I do for you guys, I swear. All right. In response to the Massachusetts legislature's enactment of the 1965 Racial Imbalance Act. So it didn't start for another 9 years here. And we're talking about, you know, my wife's mother's generation. My parents were born in 58. So they were, you know, 7 years old, 6, 7 years old when this shit happened. Don't know what month it was, so I can't say exactly. What the fuck? I thought I did this already.
It's pretty smart, actually. Yeah, now our best alternative suspect is gone. Prosecution has arrested where Long Chunk has to work with.
Now you can honestly you'll easily be able to tell who the racists are in the comments when I do this, because the racists are going to be the ones that somehow will be denying it or acting like I'm making any of this up. This is so fucking interesting. 1965 Racial Imbalance Act. The Racial Imbalance Act. I wonder what that shit even said. Like, to read it in 2025 by 2025 standards. I'm sure it's pretty insane. Which ordered the state's public schools to desegregate. W. Arthur Garrity Jr. of the United States District Court of the District of Massachusetts, laid out a plan for compulsory busing took them over a decade to be like, okay, we're going to go to this school. We're going to walk on over to this school. And then when we get there, we're going to do this. And then we'll walk on over to the next school one by one.
And I knew he was right. I was scared, but I wasn't mad at him.
It influenced Boston politics and contributed to demographic shifts of Boston's school-age population, leading to a decline of public school enrollment and white flight to suburbs. Thinking about black kids going to your kids' schools makes people move. Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think white people think black people are just like so different? And they'll be like, whoa, wait a minute. You watch TV too when you get home from work? What? I thought all you guys did was dance. Full control of the desegregation plan was transferred to the Boston School Committee. Wonder who headed that. In 1988. And in 2013, the busing system was replaced by one with dramatically reduced busing.
In a convenience store about a block away from the Cahill home. What? 20 minutes before the murder. I pre-talked the store manager and he pulled the day's credit and debit card receipts and I was able to
What?
18 lives in Queens. That'd be it.
From September of 74. Geez, that's weird.
So I guess we're safe to
To September of 76. Wow. Exactly 2 years. At least 40 riots occur, including many interracial riots. Well, what? In December of 75. Well, let's see. I'll read this part. Let's read the real history here. On April 1st, April Fools, 1965, a special committee appointed by Massachusetts Education Commissioner Owen Kiernan released its final report finding that more than half of black students enrolled in Boston Public Schools, BPS, attended institutions with enrollment that were at least 80% black, and that housing segregation in the city had caused the racial imbalance. Housing segregation. Why isn't it because they don't say because white people are fucking racist? From its creation under the National Housing Act in 1934, signed into law by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the Federal Housing Administration used its official mortgage insurance underwriting policy explicitly to prevent school integration. Like, yet you'll have people that act like racism is just sort of this fabrication. It's here. It's right here. The Boston Housing Authority actively segregated the city's public housing developments since at least 1941 and continued to do so despite the passage of legislation by the 156th Massachusetts General Court prohibiting racial discrimination or segregation in housing in 1950 and the issuance of Executive Order 11063 by President John F. Kennedy in 1962 that required all federal agencies to prevent racial discrimination in federally funded subsidized housing in the United States.
And they said, meh, we don't want it.
Right. Despite those things, despite the general order in 50, despite the executive order by the president in 62, and not until, 74 did they even get started on it. In response to the report on 420, April 20th, 1965, the Boston NAACP filed a lawsuit in federal district court against the city seeking the desegregation of the city's public schools. Massachusetts Governor John Volpe, 1961 to 63 and 65 to 69, filed a request for legislation from the state legislature that defines schools with non-white enrollment greater than 50% to be imbalanced and grant the State Board of Education the power to withhold state funds from any school district in the state that was found to have racial imbalance, which Volpe would sign into law the following August. That's a weird way to deal with it. Also in August of 65, Governor Volpe, Boston Mayor John F. Collins, 1960 to 68, and BPS Superintendent William H. Orenberger warned the Boston School Committee that the vote that they held that month to abandon a proposal to bus several hundred black students from Roxbury and North Dorchester from 3 overcrowded schools to nearby schools in Dorchester and Brighton, and purchased an abandoned Hebrew school in Dorchester to relieve the overcrowding instead, could now be held by a court to be deliberate acts of segregation. So the schools were overcrowded, so they were going to bus them elsewhere. I mean, right, the black school. Pursuant to the Racial Imbalance Act, the state conducted a racial census and found 55 imbalanced schools in the state, with 46 in Boston. And in October 65, the state board required the school committee to submit a desegregation plan, which the school committee did the following December. This is neglecting to say that the black schools were woefully underfunded.
Okay, so 55 in the whole state of Massachusetts. 46 of those 55 were all in Boston. Wow.
Right. And then do you say, oh, it's only a problem there? It's funny because this problem existed here in Detroit for a very long time. Still does. The last place you want your kids to go to is what is considered a black school, because they're just nightmares. And it's not just the school's fault. It's
not the kids.
It's the culture. It's the society's fault. When you take everything away from these people and you convince these, little black girls that the only things they can be are little Kims and, what's these new broads that are just little Kim copycats. That black girls, I mean,
they leave their libraries without books.
You mean libraries?
They, or the books that are on the shelves, the covers are ripped off, or they're all drawn all over and they can't read them all. Or the computers that are from the fucking 80s, and there's 2 of them for the whole school.
And their parents went to those same piece of shit schools. Or their parent went to those same piece of shit schools. And their parent went to those same piece of shit schools. It's a systematic thing where, bringing about rap music the way they did, and when they on 8/88 when they launched the Niggas with Attitude album, and they just literally changed the landscape from black music was about, know thyself, know thy culture, go back to Africa, figure that shit out, learn your African ancestry, be proud of your blackness, blah, 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 to immediately niggas shoot, niggas kill, bitches hoes, bitches hoes, bitches, niggas shoot, niggas, bitches drugs. Like that's it. And you weren't cool if you listened to the other music. It's really fucking crazy, raising kids and seeing how NWA is the best boy band, or the biggest boy band ever. People just don't talk about it. It's a boy band.
See, that a lot of it starts in the schools. Because even if you have, it takes more than just good teachers
Absolutely.
effectively teaching. It also is their environment. So if they are smart, but they go into these libraries or they go into this computer lab, which is a joke to even call it that, or they go into their lack of cafeteria, it just, nothing.
Where they only get pizza.
That constant reminder of they're just going to be surrounded by
Well,
shit no matter how smart
And
they
on the
are.
way to the school, they got to go by all the burnt down, I call them
Right.
tombstones, but the
Like-
burnt piece of shit houses.
That kills anybody's motivation. I don't care what you look like.
Well, but then there's also the idea that it's super, super racist, but everyone denies it. So like, there's a really good chance you're not going to be able to rise up and overcome. You know it. You know that cops are going to fuck with you for no fucking reason.
Odds are stacked against you.
Right. That kind of shit doesn't motivate.
Right.
It does motivate. It just motivates people to in a different direction than should be. It motivates people to do whatever it takes.
Especially the smart ones, because they're the ones that see it easiest. So it really is a design to fail.
I mean, most of your best drug dealers would be amazing CEOs and shit. They would be amazing if they had the proper... Their brains, the way they keep track of all the numbers and all that shit in their brains, and the way the project management, the big drug dealers that have multiple, strong asshole uneducated personalities under their wing, and they control all that. Like, that's a special person. Anyway, the Racial Imbalance Act of 65, the legislation passed by the Massachusetts General Court, which made the segregation of public schools illegal in Massachusetts. The law, the first of its kind in the United States, and again, it was a necessity. Because, hey, let's do this, and let's work together, and let's blah, blah. That wasn't working. That hadn't worked for a long time. And then when they passed the federal stuff, that was like, all right, guys, come on, let's knock it off, man. That didn't work. They had to pass specific shit for this place, and it still didn't work. First of its kind stated that racial imbalance shall be deemed to exist when the percentage of non-white students in any public schools is in excess of 50% of the total number of students in such school. I mean, but that's stupid. That only has to do with proximity. So what? You're just going to start bringing in kids from super far away and sending... Like, that's just stupid. That's a dumb practice.
Well,
Now,
it was designed, though, to even out the neighborhoods, too.
Now, if we're saying that the schools are within just a couple of miles of each other, that's a different story.
That was just for Boston. So you're talking about one city.
Right. It's, pretty small then. These racially imbalanced schools were required to desegregate according to the law or risk losing their state educational funding. Which again, that's not a solution. Plus, they obviously didn't do it. Like that it's an empty threat because you're not going to take the funding away from schools. But how would you punish the kids? That's not punishing the system. That's punishing the kids. How come the laws of, the laws that require, the stuff on the books that requires zoning and this, that, those people are that's all changed. Immediately the laws change at the top, and then anybody caught doing the problem gets arrested, gets removed from their position. Like there's board members and there's all sorts of higher ups that were probably there for a very long time that were in charge of these decisions. This wasn't like they went door to door asking people. So when those same board members or committee members or whatever it is are told to do it and they don't do it, why are they still allowed to exist in their position? Hey, cashier, go work the cashier. No. Or go work the cash register. No. Okay, well, I'd fire you, but just go ahead. I'm just work it whenever you feel like. Like, what? They work for us. An initial report released in March of 65. An initial report released in March 65, quote, because it is right educationally, revealed that 55 schools in Massachusetts were racially imbalanced, 44 of which were in the city of Boston. The Boston School Committee, again, the Boston School Committee, when they don't do their job, why do they still? That's a good position, I would imagine. You have some power, and I bet you're paid pretty decently. Boston School Committee was told to complete integration of the Boston public schools needed to occur before September of 66. Without the assurance of either significant financial aid or suburban cooperation in accepting African American students from Boston or other schools would lose funding. Without the assurance of either significant financial aid or the suburban cooperation in accepting African American students from Boston or the schools would lose funding. Okay. After the passage of the Racial Imbalance Act, the Boston School Committee, under the leadership of Louise Day Hicks, consistently disobeyed orders from the State Board of Education, first to develop a busing plan and then to support its implementation. Hicks was adamant about her belief that the busing was not what communities and families wanted.
Because she probably didn't.
Is that exactly what you thought she would look like?
Yep.
I just wanted to ask him to give my mom a little bit more money.
Oh, who does she look like?
He told me he been giving us money for years, but all of a sudden he stopped.
Her face looks like someone I can't think of.
So I just,
Um,
when I sold the house,
in April 66, the state board found the school committee's plan to desegregate the Boston public schools in accordance with the Racial Imbalance Act of 65 inadequate and voted to rescind state aid to the district. In response, the school committee filed a lawsuit against the state board challenging both the decision and the constitutionality of the Racial Imbalance Act the following August. Again, the idea that there's the school committee and then there's the state board. Why do any of them get to keep their jobs? From the state all the way down to the school committee. The fact that the state board can't do their job properly to get the right people in place and then implement, like, it's just failure all the way up.
Is that the residents of that little area are all in their ear, their representatives' ear, saying, we don't want the black kids in our school. Don't let that happen.
And that's
so then they
that's
have to
partially
make noise
true.
Above.
That's partially true. There's a very small portion of the people that actually do it. You know, but the people that do are in their ear are going to be negative. And
contributors to their campaigns.
For sure, but it's a failure all the way up. So it just goes to show you, like, that system that was in place or is in place, it isn't the best one. It doesn't work. And it's racist all the way up. And to pretend like it takes from August of this to September of that and all that, like, that's not, like, we're talking about like phone calls and shit, right? How long does it take to implement shit? I'm sure if it came to implementing raises across the board, they'd be like, oh yeah, hey, Billy, like, it would happen.
How long did it take to implement the COVID vaccine?
Yeah, no shit. Almost like they had it all prepared for us.
The lockdown. That was implemented pretty fucking quick.
In January 1967, the Massachusetts Superior Court overturned a Suffolk Superior Court ruling that the state board had improperly withdrawn the funds and ordered the school committee to submit an acceptable plan to the state board within 90 days or permanently lose funding. So they said, okay, well, they couldn't take no, that wasn't right for them to take your funding. Mm-hmm. But if you don't do it in 90 days, we'll take your funding.
Right.
So now we've just got another, like, incompetent fucking piece in this puzzle that they all exist by it's that, like Ann said, it's the constituency that funnels the money into the system, that the system has to, it's just, it's stupid. Yeah, the rich Jays and rich white people are going to have more contribution than the poor blacks do, especially when those state representatives don't even go into those black neighborhoods.
Well, why would they? Those people don't have money to give them.
Right. In June 1967, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court upheld the constitutionality of the Racial Imbalance Act, and the U.S. Supreme Court under Chief Justice Earl Warren 1953 to 69 declined to hear the school committee's appeal in January of 1968. January of 1968. On May 25th, 1971, 3 years later, the Massachusetts State Board of Education voted unanimously to withhold state aid from the Boston Public Schools due to the school committee's refusal to use the district's open enrollment policy to relieve the city's racial imbalance in enrollments, instead routinely granting white students transfers while doing nothing to assist black students attempting to transfer. Again, that's 3 years later. What about that 3-year period? Was it like, and are we saying it took 3 years for the people above them to craft the next decision or something? Like, you know how stupid that is? On March 25th, 1972, a year later, the Boston NAACP filed a lawsuit, later named Morgan v. Hennigan, against the Boston School Committee and Federal District Court. After being randomly assigned to the case on June 21st, 1974, Judge W. McCarthy Garrity Jr. ruled that the open enrollment and controlled transfer policies of that the school committee created in 61 and 71, respectively, were being used effectively to discriminate on the basis of race, and that the school committee had maintained segregation in the Boston public schools by adding portable classrooms to overcrowded white schools instead of assigning white students to nearby underutilized black schools. Oh, so it wasn't even that. We thought it was the other way around. While simultaneously purchasing closed white schools and busing black students past open white schools with vacant seats. I want to know how that Hebrew school was just abandoned. In accordance with the Racial Imbalance Act, the school committee would be required to bus 17 to 18,000 students the following September, phase 1, and to formulate a desegregation plan for the 1975-76 school year by December 16th, phase 2. 20 minutes after Judge Garrity's deadline for submitting the phase 2 plan expired on December 16th, 1974, the school committee voted to reject the desegregation plan proposed by the department's Educational Planning Center. On December 18th, Garrity summoned all 5 Boston school committee members to court, held 3 of the members to be in contempt of court on December 27th, and told the members on December 30th that he would purge their contempt holdings if they voted to authorize submission of the phase 2 plan by January 7th. On January 7th, 1975, Jesus Christ. Okay, we're almost done. On January 7th, 1975, the school committee directed school department planners to file a voluntary only busing proposal with the court. On May 10th, the Massachusetts U.S. District Court announced a phase 2 plan requiring 24,000 students to be bused that was formulated by a 4-member committee consisting of former Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court Justice Jacob Spiegel, former U.S. Education Commissioner Francis Keppel, Harvard Graduate School of education professor Charles V. Willey and former Massachusetts Attorney General Edward J. McCormick. That was formed by Judge Garrity the previous February. On June 14th, the U.S. Supreme Court, under Chief Justice Warren E. Burger, 1969 to 1986, unanimously declined to review the school committee's appeal of the Phase 2 plan. In December of 1975, June 14th of what?
I contacted Florida's Department of Children and Families.
Of 75, okay. Unanimously declined to review the school committee's appeal. In December 1975, Judge Garrity ordered South Boston High School put under federal receivership. In December 1982, Judge Garrity transferred responsibility for monitoring of compliance to the state board for the subsequent 2 years. And in September 1985, Judge Garrity issued his final orders returning jurisdiction of the schools to the school committee. We just went from December 75 to December of 82 to September of 85. That's quite the jump. In May of 1990, Judge Garrity delivered his final judgment in Morgan v. Hennigan, formally closing the original case. What? The NAACP? So we're talking about the segregation and all that other shit, blah, 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 blah. The NAACP filed that shit in 66, was it?
She was only 3 when all this happened. She doesn't remember anything.
Of course. But surely she has an opinion on you as a mother. How did she react when you told her?
I told her I'd been called away.
Oh, 72. In 72, they filed the lawsuit. And it wasn't until 1990 that the case was formally closed. It wasn't actually like won. It was just closed. Clearly, the racism goes a little higher up than people think. Oh, we're going to go back to it. I shouldn't have been looking. In 1972, the NAACP filed a class action suit, Morgan v. Hennigan, with Tallulah Morgan as the main plaintiff. Tallulah Morgan. Tallulah Morgan, 1948. Born in 1940. So we have a character here. Tallulah Morgan, born in 1948. When? 1948. It's her birth year. Was the main plaintiff in the historical case Morgan v. Hennigan, which led to the desegregation of the Boston school system in 1970. Her background seems somewhat unclear, as she is occasionally identified as a Boston public school student. However, in-depth sources like journalist Anthony Lukakis' book Common Ground, The Turbulent Decade of the Lives of Three American Families, identify Morgan as a 24-year-old mother of 3 school-age children. That seems to be verified by the initial complaint filed in Morgan v. Hennigan, which lists a Miss Tallulah Morgan and her 3 children, Petrie, Kimberly, and Kristen. Petrie? Morgan was a black working class Boston resident, and the complaint reflects her frustration with Boston Public Schools' policy of racial segregation and underfunding of black majority schools. Not to mention the obvious news coverage of her existence. She headed the list of plaintiffs in the class action lawsuit in the Boston Public School Committee, the school committee whose director, James Hennigan, March of 27 to January of 2020. Looks like a great guy. He's the opposite. He's the bad guy in this situation. It's Morgan versus Hennigan. The school committee, whose director, James Hennigan, was named main defendant, was accused of intentionally bringing about and maintaining racial segregation in the Boston Public School District. The lawsuit was filed on March 14, 1972, by the Boston chapter of the NAACP. The judge assigned to the case, Judge W. Arthur Garrity, who reached his final decision on June 21st, 1974. Oh, thought it was... okay, whatever. The plaintiffs claimed that through practices such as the adoption and maintenance of pupil assignment policies, the establishment and manipulation of attendance arenas or areas, and the district lines reflecting segregated residential patterns, the establishment of grade structures and feeder patterns, the administration of school capacity, enlargement, and construction policies, and transportation policies. The Boston School Committee had in effect denied black school children equal protection under the law. Another accusation was that the school committee had discriminated in the hiring and assignment of faculty and the distribution of resources, discriminated in the admission of certain children to certain schools, of admission of children to certain schools, and knowingly maintained a pattern of lower instructional expenditure for some children, which all violated the 13th and 14th Amendments and resulted in denying black children constitutionally granted equal access to education. When we talk about the amendments, doesn't that mean that
The Constitution was changed.
right, that it was fucked up and we had to change it? Like, we don't even talk about that nearly as much as we should. Obviously, those people...
Didn't get it right to begin with.
Right.
Or society evolved and it needed to be adjusted.
Right, but society evolved because it was so bad. And at the end of the day, it doesn't evolve like... We don't go from the bad to then we just jump to the good. We seem to just go, oh, okay, bad is here. Okay, well, we'll just be here then. Okay, we'll just be here then. Oh, okay. Well, then we'll just be here then. Okay, okay. Well, like, we're always as bad as we're allowed to be. Just right there. And then it's like, oh, you're not allowed to be that bad anymore. Okay, I'll pull it back a little bit. But I'm still as bad as we're allowed to be, right?
Always gonna be the fucking people that want to take the mile, the button pushers.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, as far as the policymakers go, that's how that's the strange part. Garrity's inquiry established that the racial system of Boston schools was a fact. The racial segregation of Boston schools. He found that the city defendants had in no ways used the tool of restricting or redistricting to alleviate racial segregation, despite being aware of the possibility. It had, in one case, used redistricting to perpetuate racial segregation in schools. Just one case, though. Similarly, he found that the established feeder patterns, F-E-E-D-E-R, feeder patterns, open enrollment, faculty hire, and promotion policies all contributed to the perpetuation of racial segregation and the provision of lower quality education in schools attended by predominantly black students. That's that. Tallulah Morgan, the main person, the main defendant in this case, is a ghost? I mean, seriously. I know about, Cornelius Drebel from 1620, and he did this, and he was born at this, and his father was actually a this, who was born on this day, and his mother was... We know all that. This is from the 80s. 70s, 80s. She's the main defendant in a case that has national implications forever. And her identity is like, well, she might have been a student, but she also might have been a mother of three. One of the kids is named Petrie. You know, all those black guys named Petrie. All right.
Like a German name, Pepe.
Again, Tallulah Morgan, NAACP filed action against the Boston Public School Committee on behalf of 14 parents and 44 children alleging segregation in the Boston Public Schools. 2 years later, Judge W. Arthur Garrity Jr. of the United States District Court of the District of Massachusetts found a recurring pattern of racial discrimination in the operation of the Boston Public Schools. What did they get out of it? In a 1974 ruling. His ruling found that the schools were unconstitutionally segregated and required the implementation of the state's Racial Imbalance Act, requiring any Boston school with a student enrollment that was more than 50% non-white to be balanced according to race. I know, I've read this part like 4 times. Can you give me some more details, please? As a remedy, Garrity used a busing plan developed by the Massachusetts State Board of Education, then oversaw its implementation for the next 13 years. I just find that to be such a fucking joke. It took 13 years to get it right. What the fuck? Judge Garrity's ruling, upheld on appeal by the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit by the Supreme Court led by Warren Burger, required schools' children to be brought to different schools to end segregation. Can you imagine what it had to be like to be those poor, 5 black kids that are forced to go to this one white school where you have all these dumb fucking, forget all these dumb fucking Boston idiots that are racist as fuck. I mean, you know how much they got beat up? I mean, the kids saw their parents throwing rocks at the buses. It's not like they're going to be, let's be different. Let's welcome them. Especially the dudes who, the girls are going to be curious. And as soon as the dudes get wind of the idea that the girls might be interested in the black guy and he might have a big dick, they're not going to be okay with that. I didn't have the big dick thing, but when the girls started showing interest in me when I moved to Northville, I experienced racism unlike I'd ever experienced before. It was the weirdest shit I was so unprepared for it. I didn't realize that was going to happen. But the way these white kids were, and it was just so, the things they would say, and then the girls, they'd want it, they'd be interested, but it'd be secret, and, be just so weird. I don't know. What do I know? I'm just an idiot. What? I'm not even doing anything.
I just saw you. I literally just.
My wife has this.
And it landed on my arm.
My wife has this delusion that I throw seeds at her all the time.
He does.
I don't.
You do. I just watched you do.
I've never in my life thrown a seed at my wife. I swear to God.
Oh, you're going to hell.
I swear to God and Jesus.
You're going to hell.
With a cherry on top.
Oh,
did you see there's a new Wayfair commercial where the last line is in it? I didn't see the commercial. I don't really care. I don't pay attention. But I heard the last line. The guy said, either that's my first cherry or that's not my first cherry. Or it's one of those.
Oh, it's not my first cherry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. They just kind of slipped that in and cut off real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not my first cherry.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to the first part of the commercial. But
I didn't think to pay attention to it.
Right. So I've been waiting to see the commercial again to see what it was actually about.
What the fuck? Of all the companies to like
the Walmart type of company.
All of the companies, that company who was embroiled in a huge scandal in 16, 17, something like that, 18 maybe.
For child labor or something.
Right. No, for shipping for human trafficking.
Human trafficking, that's what it
was. Yeah. Talk about fucking insane that they would have the audacity to do that right in our faces like that. That's not my first cherry.
I can't believe it. People buy from them still.
You have to. The same reason you have to buy from Walmart. You hate it. You hate the practices. You know that they have child labor. You know they treat their employees like you know all this shit. But you're poor. What are you gonna do? Drive to 15 different stores, spend all that gas, pay more because it's all markup and all that shit? Or, you know, give your children extra stuff because you're able to, save money at Walmart. It's what we do. Wayfair, you can save money. And you need money in this fucked up shit. The busing plan affected the entire city, though the working class neighborhoods of the racially divided city, whose children went predominantly to public schools, were most affected. Yeah, this didn't affect the private schools. Are you fucking kidding me?
Nobody is switching sides yet, but I can see we definitely have their attention.
Well, the private schools are still predominantly white.
Well, and there are predominantly black private schools. The private schools are segregated, is what it is. The predominantly Irish American neighborhoods of West Roxbury, Roslindale, Hyde Park, Charlestown, and South Boston, and the predominantly Italian American North End neighborhoods, the predominantly black neighborhoods of Roxbury, Mattapan, and the South End, in the mixed but segregated neighborhood of Dorchester. Weird. None of the predominantly Jewish neighborhoods were affected by this.
Oh, because they were already so open-minded and desegregated.
I'm sure. No, I'm sure. In one part of the plan, Judge Garrity decided that the entire junior class from the mostly poor white South Boston High School would be bused to Roxbury High, a black high school. So, you're going to bring a bunch of poor kids.
Because they'll fit in better with black folk.
To the overcrowded black school? Or what?
Oh, no, because the poor white schools were overcrowded as well.
Right, but again, that's fucking insane. Half the sophomores from each school would attend the other, and the seniors would decide what school to attend. David Frum asserts that South Boston and Roxbury were generally regarded as the two worst schools in Roxbury, and it was never clear what educational purpose was to be served by jumbling them. So, to appear to be like, look, we're fixing the problem, they mixed up the two worst schools, and then we're like, okay, this will lead to real high quality shit.
Well, it was probably for them, an experiment. Let's see what happens.
It was entertainment. Where else are they going to get all the fighters?
If they don't kill each other, then we can think about doing it in the more wealthy areas. It was my point.
Yeah, right. That's what it was. I think it was it was for appearances, to appear like they care.
It's multi-purpose.
But if you wanna benefit those kids, you put them in a situation where
which kids?
And
because
the poor
in their
kids.
Eyes, it benefited the black kids, but there was no benefit to the white kids. And that's what their problem with it was.
Who?
The powers that be in Boston.
No,
Well, what benefit does it have to our kids? It's going to take our kids down. Why would we do that?
But no, they're saying that this didn't include the upper crust. So this was just mixing of the poor schools. They were right. What's it going to do other than make things worse? The people were actually right. If they were now, how they effectively showed that is a different story. But the idea that it's like you're not talking about sending our poor kids to better schools. You're just talking about putting them in basically a war zone.
Well, they don't have the money to go to better schools, so that's on them.
For 3 years after the plan commenced, Massachusetts state troopers were stationed at South Boston High. The first day of the plan, only 100 of the 1,300 students came to school that day.
100 out of 1,300.
Only 100 out of 1,300 students came to school at South Boston. So are we?
Wow, 1,200 students stayed home.
Are we literally saying that exactly 100 students out of exactly 1,300 students? When you start seeing that kind of shit, to me, that makes me like sound like
That's an incredible ratio.
right.
Even if it's, you know, a couple
Only
here, a couple there.
only 13 of the 550 South Boston juniors ordered to attend Roxbury showed up. Parents showed up every day to protest, and football season was canceled. Whites and blacks began entering through different doors. An anti-busing mass movement developed called Restore Our Alienated Rights. The final Judge Garrity issued decision on Morgan v. Hennigan came in 1985, after which control of the desegregation plan was given to the school committee in 1988. Wow, that was...
Took it 3 years to go through.
Well, that was just interesting. Okay. The integration plan arose, fierce criticism among some Boston residents. Of the 100,000 enrolled in Boston schools in the Boston school districts, attendance fell from 60,000 to 40,000 during these years. Opponents personally attacked Judge Garrity, claiming that because he lived in a white suburb, his own children were not affected by this ruling. The co-author of the busing plan, Robert Dentler, lived in the suburb of Lexington, which was unaffected by the ruling. Judge Garrity's hometown of Wesley welcomed a small number of black students under the voluntary METCO program that sought to assist in desegregating the Boston schools by ordering places in suburban school districts to black students.
That's how it was in Nova.
The students from Wesley were not forced to attend school elsewhere. Senator Ted Kennedy was also criticized for supporting busing when he sent his own children to private school. I mean, like, there's a real fucked up reality here, right? This is the worst part is, instead of us going after the WHO, protesting against the WHO, picketing outside of their houses, going outside of their schools and all that shit, we attacked each other. The whites and the blacks attacked each other, as they always want us to do, while they were fucking insulated.
However, there's also, if they were to force the desegregation in those areas where those residents were the ones that don't want it, now you have to bring in things like National Guard to police it, because there's gonna be repercussions if you force a bunch of black kids into a very racist white neighborhood that also have money to try to back it up.
But of course, I mean, that's common sense.
So you can't do it that way either.
I know.
So squeezing it in, starting with the poor neighborhoods, was the way they had to go, which sucks.
No, it wasn't. You could show it worked by integrating. I mean, I just can't imagine that there were a lot of wealthy black schools to begin with.
No, there weren't any
Right.
at all.
So this whole thing is about pretending to fix the problem while insulating yourself, and then creating the again, because it's just like Ginger praying about the fucking the sidewalks. Instead of us unifying, instead of the Goyim unifying and demanding that, you know what, why don't you guys put more money into these schools?
The way they look at it was, we have no problem with the schools desegregating.
You don't know how they look at it.
However, black people are poor, so they're not going to be able to come to our neighborhoods anyways.
That's what the busing is all about.
Okay, so why should we bring poor kids where they can't afford to be?
So you can inspire them to be better. So you give them.
They don't have the money to be here.
That's how they get the money to be there. Like, you're making dumb arguments right now, and you're talking from a perspective that you're just sort of assuming. You're saying that all of these people all felt this one way, and everything you're saying is an easy solution. But that's you're looking at it from a surface perspective. You're not looking at it from that deeper perspective that it worked exactly how they wanted it to work. This is not like, it's not something that was broken. It's not like it didn't work. They sat around laughing about it. That's why it took so fucking long. And then when they integrated it, they sat back and watched as we tore each other apart over it. Nobody ever goes and protests. Like I say, instead of all of those parents getting together and doing a protest up and down the streets of those two.
What parents? The black parents?
Both sides, whatever side. The parents angry. No, the protesters were mainly white. So instead of all these white protesters throwing rocks at public school buses, why don't they go to outside up and down the neighborhoods of the judge and the other guy that wrote it, and the committee members and all that, and protest up and down those streets?
Trouble.
No, they wouldn't. It's constitutionally protected activity. You can protest.
Unless you're protesting against the Jays on college campuses. Then you're going to jail.
Absolutely. Well, of course you should. And you're a college kid, mind you. But that's what this whole thing is about. Is it actually shows us just how manipulated we are. For us to be fighting against each other over this, that's what they want us to do. We don't go after them, and they're not. The fight isn't. It isn't. Fuck you! Stop giving so much money to the rich schools, who have not just the federal funding but the public funding to be able to do this. There are so many kids that attend these rich schools that parents could just drop $1 million into the school and they wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah, but they would drop it into their school.
That's what I'm saying. They could. So when that shit happens, when you say, look, you guys want to have these really nice schools, donate all the money you can. We're going to put just as much money into the poor schools as we do these rich schools. I guarantee the rich parents would put more than enough money into that. And again, if we were all, truly selfish and trying to make life better for ourselves, you would realize that you want those poor blacks and whites to be educated so they're less likely to fucking harm you.
They might take my kids' jobs.
They might. Or they might take your kids' lives, or they might take your kids' stuff. They might break in, they might do this because they're poor. And when people are poor, they do crazy shit. I'd much rather have there be more competition for jobs than have more crime.
But if they live in a safe area, they won't be subject to that crime.
No, they still are. Especially since so many of them, especially when they're kids, like to go party in those rich neighborhoods and get fucked up. Or in those poor neighborhoods and get fucked up. So many of your daughters, whether you like to admit it or not, like that big black dick. It's what it is. They like the bad guy thug that they know is going to make their stuffy dad all upset. Especially if their dad's one of those typical rich guy dads who violated them at some point in their life. Okay, so the protests and violence. It starts with ROAR. Restore Our Alienated Rights was an anti-segregation busing organization formed in Boston, Massachusetts by Boston School Committee Chairwoman Louise Day Hicks in 1974. Now, this is going to be a dumb racist woman. I don't want my kids going to school with no black kids. She wasn't doing this because she was like, the rich kids and blah. She wasn't. She was adamantly opposing the idea of colored kids being in her schools. In our schools, using tactics Molded in the civil rights movement, Roar activists led marches in Charleston and South Boston. Neither one of those are the big neighborhoods. Public prayers. Can you imagine you're a J and you see a bunch of these dumb sheep getting together in a public place and they're all eyes closed real tight, praying as hard as they can to the Sky Daddy God? It's fucking insane. Public prayers, sit-ins of school buildings and government offices, protests at the home of prominent Bostonians, mock funerals, and even a small march on Washington, D.C. These people were that motivated to do all these things when it comes to keeping blacks and whites separated. Can you imagine if people were this motivated against Israel? Can you imagine if this sort of motivation was properly focused? Like it's really fucking nuts. This same group, how come these people don't get together to stop the pedophilia everywhere? When the church in these Boston areas, you know, because this happens a lot, gets caught violating a child, does Louise Day Hicks and her group do all this other kind of shit to you know, get the church to stop raping children? No. From September 74 through the fall of 76, at least 40 riots occurred in the city. On September 12, 1974, 79 of 80 schools were bust without incident, with South Boston High School being the lone exception. And through October 10th, there were 149 arrests, 40% occurring at South Boston High School alone. 129 injuries and $50,000 in property damage. Because white parents did not want their children to go to school with black kids. Because racism isn't an issue, and the Jays are the most persecuted people in the country for sure. Black people are just making it up. On October 15th, an interracial stabbing at Hyde Park High led to a riot that injured 8, and at South Boston High on December 11th, a non-fatal interracial stabbing led to a riotous crowd of 1,800 to 2,500 whites hurling projectiles at police while white students fled the faculty or the facility and black students remained. As many as 2,500 adults didn't have to go to work that day, didn't have anything, and they didn't get arrested. They definitely weren't arrested. Wow, that's fucking crazy. It's also interesting to think back in the day when guns weren't everywhere, people got stabbed. Non-fatal, but they got stabbed. Nowadays, people just get shot. State Senator William Bolger, State Representative Raymond Flynn, and Boston City Council Louise Day Hicks made their way to the school, and Hicks spoke through a bullhorn to the crowd and urged them to allow the black students still in South Boston High to leave in peace, which they did, while the police made only 3 arrests. The injured numbered 25, including 14 police, and the rioters badly damaged 6 police vehicles. Good thing they were white. You know they were white when you hear that part. Only 3 arrests were made, 14 police were injured, and 6 vehicles were fucked up. Yeah, if that was black people, that would have been a slaughter. On February 12, 1975, interracial fighting broke out at Hyde Park High that would last for 3 days, with police making 14 arrests, while no major disturbances occurred in March or April. So, again, I just assume it's those black kids picking all those fights, huh? Put a bunch of poor kids together and go figure they fucking fight a lot. What's funny, too, is like, How many times was it just like two kids fighting? Not a white kid and a black kid fighting, but two kids fighting, but they turned it into something huge. On May 3rd, so wait. Interracial fighting broke out at Hyde Park that would last for 3 days. Police made 14 arrests when they were fighting. When as many as 2,500 white people were damaging property and doing all that kind of shit, injuring 14 police officers, 3 arrests were made. On May 3rd, the Progressive Labor Party, PLP, organized an anti-racism march in South Boston. Anti-racism march, where 250 PLP marchers attacked 20 to 30 South Boston Utes, and over 1,000 South Boston residents responded, with police making 8 arrests, including 3 people from New York City, and the injured numbered 10. It's a weird way to write it. So 250 adults attacked 20 to 30 Boston kids. We're talking about adults attacking children, people. Whether they're teenagers or not, they're youths. The youths. And the injured numbered 10. So wait, again, so it sounds like 250 PLP, Progressive Labor Party. Who do you think the Progressive Labor Party is? You think those are like Mexicans? So 250 white people attacked 20 to 30 black kids. See, it's weird how this isn't written so you can identify people. Why is it that way other than to hide the black people or the white people doing it? Like it should easily say, 20 to 30 South Boston youths. What is a South Boston? Is that a white kid, a black kid? What are we talking about? Wasn't that a predominantly black neighborhood? Now I have to go back and go try to read if I can remember which one was which. And over 1,000 South Boston residents responded. So 1,000 black people somehow knew about this and came out and what? From June 10th through July 7th, police made no arrests in more than a dozen of what they described as racial incidents. White people getting away with shit. Oh, wow, that's a long bunch of stuff I'm not going to read. Maybe I'll read more tomorrow. I doubt it. Maybe I won't even do it tomorrow. I wasn't planning on being here nearly as long today, but found something interesting. That's what happens. Anyway, go get your free shit from the description, the website, www.the-bilderberg, BILDERBERG-group.com. That'll be there. Oh no. What do we got now?
What's the bottom part of that picture? It looks like a penis and toilet paper.
You're really the only witness we have. Unfortunately.
I mean, it's his dirty finger.
What do you mean?
We need someone who can tell the jury under oath.
I think he might be out of prison. I don't know.
I don't know who that is.
One of my cousins.
Oh.
Wi-Fi.
I wish you wouldn't have stopped me. Go get your free download. Go get your, I'm going to put a link to Hollywoodism, which is the most important thing you can watch. And I'm going to put a link to the Facebook page where you can go check out the music videos. So, have a great day. Pedophiles, kill yourself.
Well, Inga bet she knows